You're watching Cable 2.
With the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation. If you will all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for another beautiful day. Lord, we ask that you continue to be with families who are grieving losses, unexpected losses of students, and with kids and teachers and staff at those schools that were affected. And Lord, we continue to be thankful for such a good and loving community that we have here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Lord, we are grateful for all that are with us this evening, and we wish for them to have safe travels home. Lord, we continue to lift up all of our staff members and know that all the extra sacrifices that they do each and every day, and their hearts are in the right place for our kids. Lord, thank you for my colleagues that are with me here on the board, and for all that they do for public education in this district. Lord, continue to be with our district, continue to lead us in the right direction, and continue to help us ask the right questions so that we can hit those end goals for all students. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you. Amen. Right. Okay, board, we have our agenda up for review. Do we have anything to add to the agenda?
Madam Chair.
I think Dr. Emery.
Madam Chair, as we prepared you after our agenda went out, we had a request, and we are asking tonight to have the board consider adopting this resolution in support of the quarter-cent sales tax on the November 6th ballot. And we can share more information if the board chooses to add the resolution. We sent you electronic, but you also have a paper copy at your place.
Okay, so we have, we will add that as, if okay with the board, we can add that as action item H to this agenda for this evening. Yes, I had that on the list. We also need to add to our agenda that we will return to closed session. Do we have anything else to add or remove from the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Vice Chairman Barr. Do I have a second? Mr. Johnson, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time I'll call on Jacki Pearson, who has some special recognitions for us this evening.
Good evening. Tonight is WSFCS Librarian Night. One person is stopped in traffic. So we will start with our first one, and hopefully the other will arrive in a little bit. First, I'd like to recognize Bitsy Griffin, who is the School Library Media Coordinator at Old Town Elementary. And she has just been elected, awarded, come stand here so they all can see you, state president of our state school association, right. The North Carolina School Library Media Association is our professional organization for school librarians in our state, and it's affiliated with the American Association of School Librarians and the American Library Association. It sponsors professional development for school librarians, channels of communication, book competitions such as Battle of the Books, and the North Carolina Children's Book Award. She also, they sponsor advocacy visits to state and national legislators, and provides recognition, scholarships, and awards, such as the one we'll recognize in a few minutes with our other media coordinator. It's our honor tonight to recognize Bitsy as the president of this fine association. She's just finished organizing and hosting a state conference with the theme, Amazing Things Start in the Library, and it was an amazing conference. She has advanced professional development as a member of the North Carolina Digital Leaders Coaching Network, and that's through the Friday Institute with NC State. And she is a statewide advocate for school librarian positions, very outspoken for us. And she has a quality media program in her school library that I'd like her principal, Dr. Kimberly Kelly, to give you a quick idea of what she does.
Good evening, Chairman Jones, school board members, Dr. Emery. Thank you for allowing me a little bit of time to recognize Bitsy. Her accomplishments through her role as the president of the NCSLMA are remarkable. She has led countless people through professional development and exposure to best practices that can be used in our media centers. While I am enormously proud of these accomplishments, I am most proud to say that Bitsy is a member of the Old Town Elementary staff. This year, Bitsy has not only stepped up her role of leadership in North Carolina, but also at Old Town. It is through her expertise and experience that she positively influences the role that literacy plays at Old Town. Bitsy works tirelessly every day in a multitude of roles that include technology support for teachers, mentoring, implementing best practices in the media center, and assisting our classroom teachers with leveled libraries and other important literacy focuses. Bitsy is the type of staff member that every school desires. She is always professional and seeks to help her fellow educators in any way that she can. Our parents, our teachers, and myself know how lucky we are to have her at Old Town. But her greatest influence and passion goes to every student that walks through our doors. And because she is at Old Town, I count our students some of the luckiest in the district. I'm proud of you and thank you for everything that you do. Here's a flower on behalf.
Congratulations. So on behalf of the board, we want to say thank you for all that you do. I think your principal did an amazing job of talking about all that you do for kids each and every day, and so we're very proud of you. Thank you very much. And I know everyone wants to say congratulations and shake your hand. So board members, if your chair could follow the agenda, we would have done the public hearing first. You know, I really like the recognition piece to the meeting. So we do have a public hearing to receive naming suggestions for North Forsyth High School baseball field and the North Forsyth High School track and the new middle school on Robin Hood Road. It's my understanding that we have no one signed up to speak on any of those. I just want to make sure if someone's in the audience, if you were here for that purpose, that you knew you needed to sign up. So we're good? Okay, wonderful. So board, we have no one tonight that has signed up to speak. I do know that we were provided online comments, right, that people went to the website, and so you do have that information in front of you, so there's no action to be taken. While we're also, as soon as our next recipient comes out of traffic, we're just going to pause so that we can recognize her. So wherever that may be, we may just change things up a little bit. Before we move on to the next part of the agenda, I would like to take a moment to publicly thank our teachers and administrators and bus drivers and communications folks and operations for going above and beyond on October the 11th. That day ended a little chaotic, and I'm sure some of our kids were anxious, and you know, we know that people at the schools stayed at school until 7 and 8 o'clock at night to make sure that parents were able to get their kids, you stepped up in the car lines and the bus lots, and parents stepped up when they rolled up to a bus stop and knew that there was maybe a kid that was going to have to walk, and they put them in the car and made sure they got home safe. So I am grateful for your actions that day. I know that you love kids, and that's why you do what you do, but it was very evident of that, especially in that particular afternoon. And so I am grateful. I know that my colleagues are also just as grateful for your service to our students that day. So thank you very much. At this time, we will move into public comments on agenda items. I do have a couple of folks signed up to speak. First, Jenny Easter. We will put 3 minutes on the clock, and just try to finish your thoughts or sentence if the buzzer goes off. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, members of the board, and Dr. Emery. My name is Jenny Easter. I teach kindergarten at Vienna Elementary. I come to speak on the topic of the local sales and use tax and what I hope you will do with it if it passes in November. First, I'd like to start with a sincere thank you for the bonus you were able to work out for us teachers. I humbly trust in your word and capabilities to come together on raising our supplements in the near future. My real purpose for speaking tonight is in support of my teacher assistant and all other classified employees. I really don't like the term assistant, mainly because most people view them as just our aides, and she's more than just an aide. She's my co-teacher. In this day and age, we share almost the same responsibilities. She's required to do morning and afternoon duties in the car rider line, whether it's the blazing heat, rain, hurricane, or soon to be freezing cold, to make sure they get in the right car and to help them in and out of it. She pulls children for assessments, interventions while I teach. She monitors and poses questions during learning stations. She doesn't get a planning because she teaches guided reading in first grade. She comes back to kindergarten to teach guided reading with me. During writer's workshop, she helps me conference with our 5- and 6-year-olds. During recess, she tends to boo-boos and helps me tie shoes. At lunch, we barely both get to eat because we're opening containers and packages. But most of all, I wanted to point out that most of the classified employees, as you know, carry associates and bachelor's and sometimes master's degrees. As much as I would love to see a bump in my supplement, I would love more than anything to see more given to them. Because without their work and dedication, we teachers cannot come close to completing everything we are asked to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda Mays.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, the board, and Dr. Emery. I'm Rhonda Mays, school social worker in this district and full-time release president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. I am coming before you tonight to speak also on the local sales and use tax. I've had a number of people to contact me, members of the association, as well as people who are not members, just people from the community, to ask about this sales tax. And some of the questions that have arisen from it is, what will happen with the funds if this passes and the funds are received by the school district? What will happen? Will it be enough to sustain a supplement increase? Will it be enough to address the issues concerning the pay of our classified employees? Would it be enough to make certain that we have the resources in all of our schools and that the resources are equitable across the district? Will it be enough? And then the other part is, we are a food desert. And how will this impact those who are already struggling in our society? Well, that question was answered at our education forum the other week. And we were informed that the tax would not be put on food or gasoline. So that made it a little bit better. But we know that we need the funds, and this is one way for us to get some more funds into our education system here in Forsyth County. But the bigger picture is, what will the board and what will we do as citizens to make certain that we speak with our legislators to get the monies that are supposed to be coming from them for our schools? Because the state is supposed to provide us with the funding for our schools. This sales tax and anything that we get from this will only be a Band-Aid. We need real solution and a real funding source for our public school system in North Carolina. Yes, we need this money, but we need a more permanent solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Jordan.
Good evening, Dr. Emery, Chairwoman Joan, board members. I'm also here to speak about the sales tax. First, I want to thank you for asking when several of you went to the county commissioners. And now I'm going to be talking about, that you passed this resolution tonight, and that I hope we will see a unanimous vote for this, because like Rhonda said, it's just a beginning, but it's something that we need to have right now to start paying the teacher the supplements, to get some money for a livable wage for our classified staff, and to start fixing the infrastructure and some other things that are going on in our county that we need real solutions for. So I'm hoping that I will see a unanimous vote tonight in passing this resolution, and then some action further to see what's going to be going on in terms of getting some permanent solutions here. Advocating to the NCGA for us. I mean, that's part of what we need to be doing too, is speaking up to them and saying, you guys need to be doing your job and funding our schools as well. So we need some real solutions, and I hope that this will be a first step. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diesel? Ziesel, sorry.
Good evening, Chairperson Jones, Board, Dr. Emery. My name is Joshua Z Saul. I am a parent of 3 children, 6-year-old August, 4-year-old Cordelia, and 1-year-old Simone. So I just moved to Winston-Salem last year, hoping to be here for a while. We've been moving around a lot, but really do love Winston. Love that our children are involved in the public schools here. So my son goes to Spies Elementary in the Spanish Immersion program, which is super awesome. We love it. I'm here to talk as a concerned parent about makeup days. So, I mean, I've only been here 2 years. Last year was my first year. This is my second year, and I'm a little bit concerned about the ways that makeup days are decided. So I know last year there were a couple of school days that were forgiven, which makes sense. There were a lot of school closures. And I know regarding the hurricane days that we just had, that you've made a decision to not have the makeup day on the whatever the day before Thanksgiving is. And I just want to ask for some increased transparency about how those decisions are made. I think that, as someone who I have my doctorate in psychology, education is obviously very important to me. And I just am concerned about an excess of days that are just not being made up. I think it's really important for children to be in school, especially for me. My wife and I both work full-time, and it's really challenging finding childcare days when school isn't in session. And so just for those reasons, just wanting to ask that you are judicious about use of makeup days. And I think the biggest thing that it's challenging, I'm on Facebook I know that no matter what decision you make, parents are going to be upset. I've seen all the comments about your decision for the first hurricane and for the second hurricane, and you're never going to win no matter what you decide. I totally get that. I do not envy you in the position that you are in having to make those decisions. However, I do think that increasing transparency would be helpful for that. I think it would be really helpful to know why you're making the decisions that you're making. I know that there was a little bit of that with the second hurricane. I really appreciated hearing a little bit about why the decision was made that was made. I think hearing the actual information that you were utilizing in making that decision was super, super helpful, and I know that I would just encourage more of that in the future. So I know that my time is almost up. I'll save the rest of my comments for the next part, so thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments on agenda items. We are moving into our discussion items. As Alex is making way to talk about hurricane makeup days, Jackie, if you'll just kind of wave and let me know if we see someone, we'll stop in between to do our recognition.
So good evening, board.
Good evening.
Chair, Dr. Emery. Mr. Z Saul's comments are very timely in terms of what we have up first on our agenda for discussion this evening. I am here to share with you a recommendation around the hurricane makeup days. So we missed 2 days during Hurricane Florence, September 13th and 14th. The Senate proposed a bill that has now become a law that allows for a school district to meet the instructional hours or the instructional days and not have to make the time up. So it says if a public school unit's scheduled calendar will already meet the 185 instructional days or 1,025 instructional hours, no additional days or hours for that school are required to comply with the current school calendar law. So on our current schedule, if the board chooses to not make up the 2 days, we would have 178 days on our current calendar at 6 instructional hours per day. That's 1,068 instructional hours that we would have. That gives us still a little bit over 40 hours worth of cushion if we have inclement weather at other times throughout the year and the board would like to consider forgiving additional days. So the recommendation is that Winston-Salem and Forsyth County Schools not make up September 13th and 14th. Now that comes with some complications and some implications that I want to make sure that you understand in terms of making your decision. So the law says that employees have to be paid for the days. So even if we choose not to have the student days made up, all employees still have to be paid for those 2 days who would have been scheduled to work on those days. And that the money to pay them has to come out of the pots of money that would have originally paid them. So that includes all employees employed during the instructional day, including salaried and hourly, full-time, part-time. It includes everybody who would have been scheduled to work on September 13th or September 14th. Some employees have kind of fluctuating schedules. So a bus driver, for example, works on an hourly rate, but sometimes their days take a little bit longer than others depending on traffic and those kind of considerations. And so the finance department will be working to determine what the averages or what the regular work schedule would be in order to determine how they should be paid, how much they should be paid. So here are some of the major kind of current implications and what we know. Employees who worked their normal schedule on those 2 days have already been paid. They've already been compensated because they worked, right? So 12-month employees still came into work for the most part on those days. Some folks chose to take annual leave and not come to work on one or the other of those 2 days. They will have their annual leave reinstated, so they'll get those days back. Hourly employees who did not work will be paid for their scheduled time. That also includes folks who, the hourly folks, no, that's it, hourly employees. And part-time employees, so who might be salaried, but so we have, for example, we have teachers who work A days and B days. So a teacher might have been scheduled to work on Thursday, but not scheduled to work on Friday according to their regular schedule. So they'll receive what they would have received had they worked their day. We have some people who work just like half a day, right? So those folks will be compensated for what their schedule would have normally been. Then full-time substitutes, long-term substitutes for folks who are out on medical leave or maternity leave, those folks who have an HR action to put them into a position for a period of time will also receive their compensation because they would have worked those days. But if a substitute was, for example, a teacher decided on Wednesday that they were ill and they weren't going to come in on Thursday and they'd already called for a sub, the sub who was scheduled to come in on Thursday will not be paid, according to the law. That's not a interpretation, that's what it says. So that takes care of September 13th and 14th. The recommendation is to not make up those days and to apply the state law that allows for us to not have to do that. It basically becomes a wash. So if we were to make up the days at some other time, we would still have to pay the folks to come in and work on those other 2 days. We're just going to pay them for the 13th and 14th. I see Dr. Emery moving for her mic.
I wanted to add, when we last had this discussion, and this was still in the General Assembly, the issue became there were some districts out there already waiving these days, and you will recall the question was, if somebody's paid by state funds, we don't have the local authority to do that. And so the gift here is that this action allows us to pay people from whatever pay source we pay them from now. And so it doesn't create an undue burden on our local budget to do so. And I would also like to say, appreciative of the comments made and in the spirit of transparency, these days are very unique, and it's very atypical that we would be sitting here on October 23rd already having missed 3 days of school, and we don't control that. And so part of this is, I think, our folks in Raleigh also recognizing that it's atypical and giving us some options for how to forgive that, knowing that the worst weather seasons are still ahead of us.
So before I move into the October date, are there questions about the September 13th and 14th? Okay. So we also missed a day due to Hurricane Matthew and some power outages on October 12th. And there is some further study being done, just like there was last time I came, around consideration for forgiving the days at the state level for days missed due to Hurricane Matthew. That study is not complete, but staff's recommendation is that you determine what the makeup day will be tonight, and then if there is further action around a forgiveness option, then we would return to you with that information and an additional recommendation. So the recommendation for October 12th is that you assign January 22nd as the makeup day, which is the next makeup day on the approved calendar. And that is the RS day at the end of the first semester or the second 9 weeks or second quarter. However, history shows us that quite often in January there are some weather conditions that mean that there are days that we miss in the first half of January. And so our hope, although we don't have any way of knowing, would be that teachers would have the opportunity to kind of get caught up during some of those snow days prior to January 22nd. So staff's recommendation is that forgiveness for September 13th and 14th, and establish and identify January 22nd as the makeup day for October 12th. Questions for me?
Nope.
Great.
No questions. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Dr. Emery, the Project Impact Program Manager contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As our board knows, we have been tremendously supported by the business efforts of Project Impact, and to make that work move and scale it up, we hired Victoria Fulton 2 years ago, and I think she's here tonight. I do want to publicly say what an amazing job she does. She is keeps these proposals moving in front of the Project Impact Board as well as to you. Obviously, we get the funding approved before we bring them here for your approval. And I do want to just note for folks that we currently have 14 pre-K classes in this district that we would not otherwise have funding for. We have been blessed to be able to pilot a pre-K STEM curriculum in those classes. We have served students now for 2 summers in Pathway to K, and then most recently added Pathway to 1. So the whole emphasis on how do we better prepare children to be ready for kindergarten. Then our Office of Early Learning, which is supported by Kate B. Reynolds Foundation, but the work of that office, the coaches, the training, the full day of kindergarten that you heard about at our last curriculum committee meeting, the week-long training for every kindergarten teacher in what was Reading Foundations, which really gives us a leg up on our literacy efforts, all supported by Project Impact dollars. And so tonight we were recommending renewal of Victoria's contract. Last week the Project Impact Board approved the funds for another 2-year contract. So we're happy to answer questions you might have or any comments.
Questions, board members? Victoria, thank you for what you do. We appreciate you and all your work. So thank you very much. Yes, I think that we should clap. Yes. So next, our Building and Grounds Committee report, Ms. Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
We had a short meeting, which is most unusual, so this is going to be short and sweet. We talked about the Glenn High School Stadium, GMP, this afternoon, and we also discussed that when we had our Buildings and Grounds meetings. We also talked about Easton additions and renovations. It will include 12 classrooms, which we're excited about, 2 pre-K classrooms, and also renovations to the dining hall. Thank you.
Thank you. David Singletary, our Policy Committee report.
Following in the footsteps of my fellow board member, our report will be representative of our committee meeting, short and specific today. Our wellness policy was discussed by our policy committee. This is a policy that we look at annually and is required by by federal guidelines on health and nutrition. The policy committee has seen this over the last month or so, and the policy committee agreed to accept this policy in the form that it was presented. It will now be posted online for public review and comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Curriculum Committee report, Lori Clark.
Yes, thank you. We had a great meeting. We heard from Kelly Bendheim, who is our Early Learning Program Manager, and it was a focus area, again, funded by Project Impact, the community initiative that gives money to schools to try to close the achievement gap. And again, as Bev has said, and Victoria is part of, we are just so grateful for that partnership. And we're learning more and more that this is very important, and the work that partners like this do in helping us get children ready to come to kindergarten is ever more critical than ever before. So I can't wait to see what Kelly and that whole office is going to, the impact that it's going to show. It's going to be critical for us as we look to close gaps and help children who are behind get on reading level, grade level, I should say. We also heard she was very excited to talk to us about the professional development that's a piece of that for the kindergarten and the pre-K teachers. They were very thankful and very excited. We heard from some teachers from Hall Woodward, and they talked about that professional development. And then we heard from one of our early learning partners, Marie Larson, about the individualized instruction that is provided through iReady. And then we heard from Holly Palmer, who was at Louisville Elementary, and she talked about learning centers. And then the final thing we heard after all that was we talked with Dr. Symington about an overview of the proposed high school courses for next year. That is still in progress, and we will follow up again with that next month and approve those courses.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. That concludes our discussion items for this evening, board. Before we move into action items, I would like to once again recognize Jacki Pearson.
Thank Thank you. Good evening again. And I'd like to, worth the wait. You are now seeing North Carolina's Media Coordinator of the Year, Lisa England. She is the School Library Media Coordinator at Morgan Elementary. She's been recognized in many ways, and she's been active for many years as the state chair of the North Carolina Children's Book Award Program, which is one of the programs that NCSLMA sponsors each year. And she's carried her love of children, reading, and life to her school each and every day. And I've invited her principal, Ramona Warren, to tell you why she deserves this honor.
Good evening, Dr. Emery, Chair Jones, and fellow board members. Thank you so much tonight for recognizing how wonderful Lisa England is. During my career, I've had the opportunity to work at numerous schools, and so therefore I've got to know several media coordinators. Lisa England is by far the best media coordinator and one of the best people I've ever known. She collaborates with teachers on projects that engage children as well as enhance their academic programs. She thinks out of the box to engage children in literature, such as dressing in costumes, using her guitar, and anything else necessary to get children to see literature come to life. She makes sure that she cultivates children's love of learning. She introduces them to diverse books that they wouldn't pick up necessarily on their own. She gladly takes on activities that enhance the academic environment of the school and our culture. She coaches Battle of the Books and managed the student-led news team. She created Millie, the book cart, so that children will have access to books more often than their scheduled media time. She has an honor book program that centers around the interest of each child that is honored. She quickly embraced the Bikes for Books program that we partner with our Masonic Lodge for. In all things she takes on, she puts children first and strives to ignite their love of learning. She is a positive, crucial member of Frank Morgan Elementary School team. She seeks to solve problems for the benefit of the whole community. She is instrumental in creating a culture that clearly puts the well-being of the child and the academic success of the children first. She is most deserving of this honor, and my life is richer for knowing her.
I don't know that I can top that. I'm still trying to catch my breath, so I know that you are. So we're glad that you arrived safe and sound. And on behalf of the board, we want to give you a certificate of recognition, let you know how much we appreciate all that you do every day. We're so proud of you, and so this wonderful honor that you've received. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you waiting.
And would you like to say anything?
I apologize that it took me an hour and 15 minutes on Silas Creek Parkway. I have several colleagues that are still not here, and they appreciate you waiting also, but we'll cheer in the hallway and not disturb anybody. I just want to say that I represent everyone in the position that I hold because we're hardworking. Children is that's our first love, along with children's literature, and I just appreciate the fact that we were able to represent Winston-Salem Forsyth County so well this year. Bitsy, I'm sorry I missed your presentation, but I love her. And we are a great team. At the helm of that is Jacki Pearson, and we need to all tip our hats to her because she, yes, you know we love you. She encourages us, supports us, and equips us for what we do, and we appreciate that. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And I know the board will want to take a motion. Okay, board, we will move into our action items for this evening. First up for your consideration is the approval of the hurricane makeup days. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Ms. Motsinger, second. Ms. Taylor, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Consider approval of the Project Impact Program Manager contract. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Calvert Hayes, second. Ms. Parker, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of PACE Professional Development Contract for Kimmel Farm Elementary School. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Johnson, second. Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of provider contract between Smart Start of Forsyth County and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools for pre-kindergarten. Do I have a motion to approve? Move to approve. Ms. Motsinger, second. Ms. Taylor, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Glenn High School Stadium GMP. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Parker, do I have a second? Mr. Singletary, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Easton Elementary School schematic design. Ms. Calvert Hayes, do I have a second? Mr. Singletary, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of budget amendment number 1 and transfer number 1. Do I have a motion by Vice Chairman Barr? Do I have a second? Mr. Johnson, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. We also have you have in front of you, board members, a hard printed copy of the resolution of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education in support of the local sales tax referendum.
I would just like to say I wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of this, if that is okay. There is also, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if this does not pass, there is a possibility of a 3.5 cent tax on your property. So I do hope that you will be in favor of supporting our schools with this. I can't think of anything better than for the monies to be able to come back to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools so that we can do wonderful things for our kids, for our staff, and for our teachers. Thank you.
And so we have this in front of us. If we could get a motion and a second, and then we can do discussion. So do I have anyone to give a motion for approval of the resolution? Oh, well, lots of that's great. Okay, so I saw Ms. Calvert Hayes' hand go up first, and second, Vice Chairman Barr. Other discussion or comments, board members, at this time?
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
This particular board has always, since 2014, spoke highly of transparency. And although I will be voting for this evening, I believe our county commissioners have made it very clear to us as voters in Forsyth County and citizens of Forsyth County that they're going to get us one way or the other. It's either going to be in a property tax increase or it's going to be in a sales tax increase. I am happy to see that the county commissioners have decided to allow a 40% allocation of, and I quote here, excess revenue generated from the sales tax increase. But I want to make it very clear to the public that that 40% allocation comes after the courthouse.
Right, 14.
So it's not something that's going to be readily forthcoming to us. Obviously, late is better than never, but I just want to make it clear that we are going to need the support of our teachers. We're going to need the support of the Forsyth County Association of Educators to remind the county commissioners of their commitment to education. One of the reasons I say that is because we do operate off of a funding formula that has not been fully explained to us on how that mechanism works. And I have a concern on how an allocation of additional funds from any funding source might ultimately impact that allocation on the end. So, once again, something is better than nothing.
Other comments, Ms. Parker?
Just
as Ms. Mays had said earlier, the usage of this in this resolution, I don't think you all are privy to seeing a copy of that yet, but in the resolution, it does say that we would address issues resulting from budget shortfalls, including increasing its local supplement and salary schedule for teachers within the district. So that's in this resolution that we will pass.
So how about, I'll read the resolution, so that way you hear
That'd be great.
what we're passing. A resolution of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education in support of the local sales tax referendum, whereas the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners have placed a sales tax referendum on the ballot for voter approval on November 6, 2018. And whereas the sales tax increase was approved by the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners to fund construction of a new Hall of Justice in lieu of increasing local property taxes. Whereas if approved, the sales tax increase will result in an estimated $14 million in additional county revenue each year. Whereas after funds have been allocated for the new Hall of Justice, the excess revenues generated from the approval of the sales tax referendum will be used to fund additional needs within the county, including additional resources for the public school system. Whereas on October 4th, 2018, the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners voted to approve giving the Board of Education a 40% allocation of excess revenue generated from the sales tax increase according to its current funding formula. Whereas the Board of Education desires to use these funds to address issues resulting from budget shortfalls, including increasing its local supplement pay schedule for teachers within the district. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education does hereby support the passage of the local sales tax referendum, which will be voted upon by the citizens of Forsyth County on November 6, 2018.
Madam Chair, if I might also, not to have conflicting information, but I do want to be clear, the understanding is that this will begin collection in January if it passes in November, and that the allocation of it is immediate. So we aren't waiting for a courthouse to be built to see revenue generated from the sales tax, that proration of what will otherwise be property tax if the sales tax doesn't pass will come out of the gate to us. And also just to mention that it does, as Rhonda said, not cover food or gas, and it also is for any purchases other than that in the county, both residents and others. And the estimate right now, again, it's an estimate because this is not an exact science, is that about 30% of the revenues from this sales tax would be generated from folks who don't live here. We also have a large number of college students in Forsyth County on 4 different campuses, and those are also factors that hopefully help this. And so I just want to thank our commissioners, one, for stepping out and dedicating a piece of this revenue to us and helping us with our ongoing issue of how do we find sustainable resources for the things that we would like to do to support our staff. And also thank you for entertaining it on short notice.
And I believe in full transparency, the sales tax is not on groceries, but it's on prepared food. So if you're going to a restaurant, it would be on that food. So it's just on the grocery piece of it.
And I just hope that everybody will get out and vote. When we talk about our classified employees and we talk about our other teachers that we do not have a bonus for right now, we got to get out and get them covered too. So if you can, tell your friends, tell everybody, and get out and vote. It needs to come back to the schools. Thank you.
Ms. Motsinger, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what Ms. Mays said, that it's not just supplements, it's classified employees. One of the things that the General Assembly did is increased for state employees a minimum wage of $15 an hour, but that did not include public school employees. And I think it's important that people remember that we did not include public school employees in that change. So funding has to come from the state, It has to come from our county, and I, for one, am really happy to pay taxes to support our schools.
Thank you, Ms. Motsinger. So we have a motion and a second in front of us. All of those in favor? Wonderful. Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes our action items for this evening. We will move into consent agenda items. We have two: approval of the minutes for the meeting of October the 9th, 2018, and approval of our general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Singletary, do I have a second? Mr. Johnson, all in favor? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We do have some speakers signed up for public comments. Jackie will put 3 minutes on the clock, and if the buzzer goes off, if you will just try to wrap up your thought there so that we are fair.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.